Welcome, my dear friends. Welcome to FAANG Success. So, a bit about myself. I have approximately 4 years of experience coding, and it took me 6 months to crack FAANG interviews. I did my master's in the United States of America, and computer science has always been my passion. And most of the things which I have learned are from open source, be it tutorial, be it anything else. So this is my chance to give back to the community, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the video. So if one wants to crack FAANG interviews, he or she should definitely make his resume qualitative and quantitative. By qualitative and quantitative, I mean that the numbers should speak everything about it. Think of it as the optimizations which you have done in your past or you are doing in your current project that catches the eye of an interviewer or an HR. So you are able to articulate the work that you do, the passion with which you bring to the company, and obviously writing good emails to HR. And one of the milestones could be the online exams which one gets, especially in Amazon and Facebook and Google. I think every company has an online exam, and the last step is whiteboarding. The step which is the most fearful step in which you come face to face with an engineer, and then he or she grinds you, and then you need to prove your worth. And so uh, I'll make a separate video on these milestones that needs to be achieved, because I think today I just wanna this be an introductory video in which I'll cover the rest in the coming months. So, diving deep into interview preparations, one can take help from Lead Code, Interview Beat, Geeks for Geeks, or one of my favorites, Medium blogs. So, reading blog is very important if you want to be updated with the current affairs of the computer science world. You should definitely go and check Medium blogs. If you are a student, then you should put up your A game and then grind Lead Code, Interview Bits, or any one of those mediums. The mediums doesn't matter, but the concept does. So uh, basically, I think you should have these arrows in your QR for data structure and algorithms. Time complexity and space complexity is a lot in all of my interviews. Before even giving a solution, I used to think the time complexity and the space complexity of my solution, the best time that I could do. Sometimes it's not feasible enough to scale, but most of the times I've seen that the interviews is looking for a linear approach or n log n approach. The solution cannot go beyond n log n. N squared solution, it's only there are few edge cases in which n square is good, but most of the times I've seen that it should be log n log n, or O of n. Time and space complexity. Stressing on time complexity, there are times in which an interviewer might be more focused on saving the space rather than time, but most of the time, if you give him a good solution for time complexity, he's good to go, and you will definitely pass the interview. So, coming back to the data structures, arrays, heap queues or a priority queues, bitwise operations, linked list, hash maps, graphs, breadth first search and depth first search. No, interestingly, whenever you get a graph question, there is definitely an edge case in which you need to find an optimum solution. First, you need to see whether it's a graph question or not. If it's a graph question, then an optimum solution is required, because the interviewer won't want you to traverse the graph all over again. No, so basically, you need to put a backtrack somewhere along the way if it's feasible. And backtracking, talking about backtracking, if you look into dynamic programming, There are two types: memorization, top down and bottom up. Google always asks dynamic programming questions. So if your concept is not clear about dynamic programming, then you need to focus on it and you'll be good to go. So there are some data structures which often tends to be ignored, such as union find, topological sort, Knuth and Morris Pratt. These uh, algos most of the times are get we do tend to ignore them, but uh, they are very sought upon by the interviewers. The and most of the times I've seen that it's not a data structure question. It's a combination of two or three data structures together that can yield an optimum solution. So if you are using, we'll see later on in the coursework that the questions and the data structures that one gets, they tend to be intertwined with each other. They're not like apple and oranges. They are the two sides of the same coin. So based on that, you need to come to an effective solution. So the pattern finding ability is a must. So just imagine like a chessboard in which there is an interviewer and you are the interviewee. There is a question which can be a paralog. Just make sure that you understand the question very effectively. So there are no assumptions. Even if you are making an assumption, be upfront with them. Like, this is the assumption I'm making, and then start with the solution. If you are not stating out the assumption and later on down the road the interviewer gets the hint that you have not explicitly said that this is the assumption which you made, then it could be a trap and you might be falling into it. So this, I would recommend that even before starting, first state all the assumptions which you tend to make. So in two of my interviews at FAANGs, I stated the assumption and then I started coding it. And then the interviewer said that, but I think this is an assumption you made and you never talked about it. Then I pointed him to the lines which I have written that this is the assumption which I made, and according to this, this is the solution, and the time complexity is O n log n or O n square, whatever it is. So he's like, okay, yeah, my bad. You stated it perfectly. So I would suggest you to write the assumption beforehand, and so even before you code, you need to visualize it. You need to have such an expertise in your thinking, in your critical thinking or problem solving, that you are able to visualize it. Don't be like, let me code it and then figure it out, because there are multiple pitfalls that one can get into. Most of the time, you will think that using a hash map is the solution, but no, hash map is not a solution. Then talk with yourself, like, can I do a shuffling of keys and values? If I can do a shuffling of keys and values, then which data structure should I use, which I shouldn't use, and things like that. So just be sure that you are able to visualize the problem, you are able to solve the problem effectively, and before even trying to code, you have a clear roadmap of your code. Not roadmap is the wrong term. Should say clear design. Before code comes design. If you are able to code, design, and test it during that 45 minutes of an interview, then you will definitely pass. So with this code, design, and test approach, you should only be able to stick towards the effective solution. Don't go towards O n square. And if you're going towards O n square, then make it like a 5-minute solution in which you just speak, and then 40 minutes of your time should be to code the solution and test the solution. And in test, there are some gotcha points, some edge cases that you need to take care of. And all these edge cases will come into picture. So just like null pointer exceptions, or some let's say if you are working with numbers and then an integer comes and then a string comes through, how you going to handle those exceptions, things like that. So that uh, will tell your test skills. So these three things, code, design, and test, should be the pyramid of your code. Without this, I think you should not even bother about coding. Also, there should be no pseudocodes. The key things should be visualization. Are you able to visualize the code? Speed, the speed at which you can code. It should be, you should be given 45 minutes. So in 45 minutes of time, you should be able to code the solution. Just be upfront clear with the HR that how many problems am I expected. Am I expected one problem in 45 minutes or two problem in 45 minutes? If it's a very difficult problem, I think one problem in 45 minutes. But if it's an easy problem and you can tell about it, yeah, it's an easy problem, I have the solution, and login solution or OFN solution or login solution, then the interview might give you the second question. So be careful that you can code all the solution and the interviewer is happy with you. Remember that you are not there for writing the pseudocodes. Pseudocode should never be written. Your code is your bread and butter. So make sure your code, design, and test are covered. And then accuracy. I mean, accuracy should come with handling exceptions and edge cases. So these are the pyramid that one needs to take care of if he is practicing interviews. And all of this depend upon the timing, time management. So time management should also need to be good. For that, later on I'll cover in the next courses or next videos how much time one should take to solve a problem. And there are various Chrome extensions one can use for practicing, which I figured out on my own. I'll tell you. And apart from this, I think I covered a lot of things in a short amount of time and it will take some time to digest. But this is the gist. If one can have a proper plan to code through and proper plan to go through each of these things, then definitely the road to success is not hard. And do practice each and every time whenever there is a question. You just need, if the interviewer is there for you to see you code it. If there are two questions or three questions, code the first question. You can talk about the second question if there is not time, or third question. The interview knows that you can code it, and then because of the lack of time, you are not able to code it, but your speed is good. So one thing which I am a Java developer, but for coding, I have used Python. According to me, Python is the best form of coding one can get because it's like writing pseudocodes. If you do C, C++, or Java, I think you can easily migrate to Python coding. And the more languages in your queue, the better you are. So I would suggest, if you have some time, I think 2 weeks of time is good enough in practicing Python coding, and then you can definitely improve your speed. Because for Java, uh, when I was trying for my internship, and then when I chose Java in this whiteboard, I started from here, and then the code got so complicated that I winded up over here, and the time also was up. But for Python, I think the statement is write less, do more. So if you got time, I strongly suggest, if you want to have an edge over your competition, I strongly still suggest to go over Python. Until unless it's a language specific interview in which um, in most of the FAANG companies, they don't care about your language which you chose. But if you are trying for some other companies, then and they are asking for C++ developers or Java developers, and then you do Python, then it might be a red flag. But you can say that this is the Python code which I have written, and you can convert it to C, C++ whenever they have time. But the code should be crisp and clear. They are only there to test your knowledge. And I think if you can write fast, you can definitely succeed fast. So I strongly recommend learning Python if you don't know how to write in code, because over the period of few days or few weeks, I'm gonna uh, put interview questions, and then we're gonna all the answers would be in Python. And I'm also gonna give you the mnemonics or design patterns one should look for so that he can achieve FAANG success. Thank you all for you know surviving the rest of the lectures with me, and I hope you all the best. And please subscribe. Thank you so much.